Hello, my name is Lois Stepney, and I'm very happy today to be talking with you about social work, leadership, and self-care. So when I think about self-care, I'm thinking about two different kinds. One is the feel-good self-care. These are things that we do that make us feel good. And generally we're not kicking and screaming to go do them. Maybe it's petting our puppy or holding that beautiful baby. Maybe it's reading that book or watching that YouTube video or that favorite TV show. You get what I mean. These are the things that we do because, yeah, they make us feel good. The second kind of self-care is the smart self-care. Now these are often those tasks that, quite frankly, you and I sometimes avoid at all costs. Maybe it's exercising for the 150 minutes each week. Maybe it's actually seeing your therapist, my therapist. You get the picture. These are things that we tend to avoid. We have to sometimes kind of make ourselves go, and we complain that we don't have the motivation to take care of these self-care tasks. As social workers, self-care is critically important because, did you know, in the NASW Code of Ethics, we have an ethical responsibility to address not only our impairment or possible impairment as social workers, but to also address that in our colleagues. So one of the things that's very important for us as we think about being aware social workers, being aware of our own internal processes and how that's impacting in our own person environment, is being aware of those environmental pieces as social workers. As social workers, few work-related hazards that I think is really important that we talk about in the context of this conversation are the phenomena of burnout, compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma, secondary traumatic stress, and second victim phenomena. Now let's talk briefly about what each of those are and kind of what the literature suggests the symptoms of those different conditions may be. Now I want to highlight that all of these are potentially normal reactions to abnormal situations. As social workers, you at times will see the very worst of the worst. You'll see examples of humanity gone seriously wrong. You will see folks dealing with situations structurally in the moment that have existed for years. Generational poverty, generational child abuse, sexual abuse. These are some things that can rock us to our core. And as you encounter individuals who are hurting, individuals who've been oppressed, you're going to have to basically be aware of how this will affect you as a helping professional. So let's start with burnout. We know that burnout is a result of unresolved cumulative stress. So when our bodies and our relationships are screaming at us that we are in overload and we do not have successful strategies to help us healthfully cope with that stress, then we are on the path to burnout. Folks who are burned out often have a sense of almost depression when it comes to whatever they're burned out about. Now, the truth of the matter is that anyone can be burned out. The taxi driver, the Uber driver can be burned out. The folks working at your favorite restaurant can be burned out. Quite frankly, your attorney could be burned out. Like, it's not just exclusive to social work, but in social work, some of the emotions in our environments that contribute to feeling burnout are things such as feelings like we do not have control, or feeling like the rewards we're getting from our work is not matching up with the amount of effort we're putting in. Or, quite frankly, being in situations where there's just a repetitive system of problems and we can't figure out a way to deal with it and we're not feeling heard, and so over time we become kind of exhausted and once again depressed and fried, crispy in that environment. So we think about resilience. I'm happy to report that there are 5 strategies that we're going to talk about today. You will have a link to an article by Drs. Gentry and Baranowski that talk about compassion fatigue resiliency, a new perspective, and it's from their work that these 5 professional antibodies come from. So the first one is perceptual maturation. You see, in many ways it starts with our thinking. And perceptual maturation is all about rendering our thoughts about our workplace and our work settings less toxic. So an example is the reality all of us face. We have stress warning signals because from a biological standpoint, neurobiological standpoint, we are wired to perceive threat in our environment and to react. Freeze, fight, flight, or collapse. Automatic. Now, as a professional social worker who's seeking to be resilient, it's important to be aware that you're having that stress reaction. It's also important to recognize when those stress reactions perhaps are not warranted. So an example of a perceptual maturation statement, I'll say it once and then I'll invite you to repeat it with me the second time, is I realize that I'm constantly perceiving threat in my workplace, yet I'm really in no real danger. Time to relax. So I invite you to say that with me this time. I realize that I'm constantly perceiving threats in my workplace, yet I'm really in no real danger. Time to relax. Now, the power of this statement is, just notice, telling yourself to relax. Did you pause just a moment? Often as social workers, we truly are not at risk of losing life or limb. Now, that may not be true for the person that we're working with, the family that we're working with, but in general, we're not the ones at risk of losing life or limb. And so that simple reframe, especially when what we're getting stressed about is paperwork or deadlines or clients who are not showing up for appointments or the realities of their lives that we don't have solutions for, it can help with that shift. A second magic 5 is self-care revitalization. We all need to have practices that feel good, going back to self-care that feels good, but we also need to have those smart self-care strategies. So they're all things that we know we should do, and I want to refer you to somebody by the name of Mel Robbins who talks about the 5-second rule. I'll have a link to her video as well. And basically the idea is when it comes to smart self-care strategies, whether it's exercise, eating right, seeing our therapist, whether it is engaging in vulnerable conversations, crucial conversations. So we know we need to tell someone no, or we know we need to speak our truth, but it really is hard. Like, we need to have some strategies to help us with that. Backward planning design, as well as MEL strategy, which is kind of this idea of you count back from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then do whatever you've already planned to do, helps us to get out of that thinking loop where we stay stuck. The third strategy that I want to talk about in terms of Magic 5 is connection and support. Without support, you all, we function impaired. Going back to this idea that social work leaders, we really need to be on top of our stuff, both in terms of our awareness about our own impairment, but also being willing to address the impairment we see in our colleagues. It is part of our code of ethics, our responsibility to our colleagues and our responsibilities to the profession and competent practice. You'll have another handout on signs of clinician impairment. And when we think about those signs and symptoms, the truth is, I love this quote. I can't remember where I got it from, but it stuck with me for years. We're healed in the circles of connection we have with each other. We need each other to get through this life and to be our best versions of ourselves. And so as you notice these signs of impairment in yourself or your colleagues, once again, we have to band together and address it. These are the hazards that we sometimes encounter. We're not bad people because we're going through something. But if you're finding that it's hard managing your stress or your own symptoms of mental illness are coming up, you're having outbursts at work or not showing up on time to your field placement, like, these are signs that we must once again address. So pay attention to that and seek out support. If you are the only person that basically you feel you can rely on, a good strategy at this point in your academic career is to start building that support network as you're going into social work. The fourth one, you all, is self-regulation. So self-regulation, going back to that definition of resilience from one researcher, where it's this ability to maintain emotional equilibrium in the face of adversity. Y'all, that's self-regulation. So it's that ability to manage our emotions. If you talked about the mood elevator in this class, you've learned that getting to the point of, first of all, recognizing where you are in the mood elevator and then becoming curious about where you are if you're on the lower levels is one way to begin to self-regulate. There are lots of other ways to engage in some self-regulation, and one example that I'm really a huge fan of is the practice of mindfulness. Just being aware of where we are and realizing that we're not our feelings, we're not our emotions, we're not even our thoughts, is one place to begin in order to figure out what strategy we can use to intentionally, as a professional, change the mood state that we are in. And last but not least, our fifth Magic 5 professional antibody is that of intentionality. What is your mission? What is your purpose? How come you chose social work? Reconnecting with your reasons why and creating your own life worth living is a powerful, intentional strategy to maintain your resilience and your effectiveness in this field and to be the social work leader that I know you can be. Thank you for your time.